happy Super Bowl Sunday, or as I like to call it, the final Sunday before NASCAR returns to the track. Today, we're making our way too early 2021 NASCAR playoff predictions. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. It's that time of year. I always give you guys my playoff predictions before the NASCAR season starts. The Busch Clash is this Tuesday night, the Daytona Duels are Thursday, and of course the Daytona 500 is now 1 week away. We don't have any time to lose. Today, I'm gonna look through every contender this season, and I'll give you guys my 16 drivers who make the playoffs and some of the heartbreaking choices that will not. Out of the Groove is sponsored by Alka-Seltzer, available at Walmart. Before we get into my actual predictions, we've got to talk about what makes the 2021 NASCAR season so different and why these predictions were really hard to make. Most importantly, the schedule this year is completely different than any NASCAR Cup Series schedule in recent memory. There are 7, count them, 7 points-paying road course races, that doesn't even include the season-opening Busch Clash, on the schedule this year. 6 of them are in the regular season. 6 of the 26 regular season races, that's a road course a month or more. That's going to throw some of these drivers and teams for a loop. Some of the tracks like Watkins Glen, Sonoma, these Cup Series guys have plenty of experience on, but others that are new to the schedule, like Circuit of the Americas or Road America or the Indianapolis Road Course. Many of these drivers, and in some cases all of these drivers, have absolutely zero NASCAR experience at those facilities. Those were some of the strongest elements that I factored in when making these predictions, but now, without further ado, let's go down the list. I will tell you who the 16 playoff drivers will be, as well as which 4 drivers will advance to the championship for this year. I'm very excited for y'all to look back at this list in September and mock me mercilessly, but let's see how we do. Starting out, there are, I would say, roughly 7 or 8 drivers that I think are virtually locks. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. I think those are all pretty safe bets to make the playoffs this year. I mean, if anyone disagrees, let me know down in the comments, but you better have some pretty impressive research to back it up. I think all 6 of those guys will make it in, barring any catastrophes this year, without any significant problem. 7th, I'm putting Kyle Busch. I think he's probably a lock to make the playoffs, but he did say something interesting this past week when speaking to the media. He said that he felt like he got fired this offseason when Joe Gibbs swapped his crew chief out. Adam Stevens is moving over to Christopher Bell, and now Kyle Busch will work with rookie Cup Series crew chief Ben Bayshore this year. Now, Bayshore did win 4 Xfinity races last year with Harrison Burton, so he's no slouch. He does have some crew chiefing experience, but this will be his first full-time season in the Cup Series. That's going to be a new relationship. We'll see how they gel at first. Kyle Busch is also coming off his worst season in recent memory. He only got 1 win last year. He still had an average finish of 13.8. He still had 20 top 10s, but he didn't find victory lane as much as we're used to seeing. So I still think Kyle Busch is a lock to make the playoffs, but I at least wanted to throw some of those details in there. You know, he may not be the typical dominant Kyle Busch we came to know and love or hate for many years there. Also, Alex Bowman, I think, is virtually a lock. Remember, he's switching over to the 48 car. It's the same team, still Greg Ives as his crew chief, still basically the 88 team, just with a new paint job, but he's got Ally as a sponsorship, and most importantly, Alex Bowman is going to be under a lot of pressure this season. He's in a contract year, and it's going to take a lot, I believe, to impress not only Hendrick. I think Hendrick already likes him quite a bit, but more importantly, Ally. He's got to convince the guys at Ally that he's the right pick to be their long-time, full-time driver. Ryan Blaney, I think, is also a lock, but I really just ask that Ryan Blaney win more than 1 race this year. Just please, and more than just a super speedway race, please. You got the speed, you got to get the job done. Please win more than once this year, Blaney. Now, after these 9 or so, I don't really feel like any of these next drivers I'm about to list are locked in by any means. This is where things get a lot more difficult to predict, to select. Really, from about 10th to 21st or 22nd, I think, is all kind of up in the air in my opinion. You know, there are some teams we expect to be maybe a little bit better, but, you know, drivers could have breakout seasons, teams could find something midway through the year, you know, and with all those road courses, that's a factor that needs to be factored in, of course. I feel like from about 10th through 21st or so, it's kind of up in the air. So I'm going to break some hearts with these predictions because I cannot fit 21 drivers into the playoffs. I have to narrow it down to 16. Let's start with one of the most high-profile drivers that everyone will be talking about this year. I think Kyle Larson will make the playoffs in his first year with Hendrick Motorsports. But I do see a lot of people saying, oh yeah, Kyle Larson, he's a Championship 4 contender. If he misses the round of 8 or the Championship 4, this is a down year. Like he's got to have high expectations. And I tell those people to pump the brakes a little bit. You know, Kyle Larson is stepping into the 5 car, but that's really the 48 car. Cliff Daniels will be his crew chief. That is the same car, crew chief, crew that Jimmy Johnson has missed the playoffs with the last couple of seasons. You know, 7-time champion, future Hall of Famer, all-time great Jimmy Johnson. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson was not on the top of his game the last couple of years. Kyle Larson is in his prime, and we've seen him dominating dirt tracks across the country the last year. So right now, I actually do think Kyle Larson is a little better driver than Jimmy Johnson is right now. So I do think this team will make the playoffs this season with Kyle Larson, but pump the brakes, guys. Championship 4, heck, even round of 8, I would say would be a fantastic year for Kyle Larson. I think a playoff berth, hopefully 1 or 2 wins. I think that should be the goal that Kyle Larson and Hendrick Motorsports set for that race team. Kyle Larson's bringing a lot of momentum into this year's Cup Series season, so I expect him to make the playoffs in that 5 car. Get Cliff Daniels in the playoffs for the first time. Moving on, I also think Aric Almirola will make the playoffs this year, and I know this isn't an exciting pick. This isn't a guy that many people are really talking about this year, or that anyone's really that excited about this year, and that's no disrespect to Aric Almirola. He just doesn't win races. That's the problem. He's extremely consistent. Last year, he had an average finish of 13.3. He had only 6 top 5s though, but 18 top 10s. And remember, he had that tremendous consistent streak, 9 straight top 10s at one point during the summer last year. Aric Almirola has made the playoffs each of the 3 seasons he's now spent with Stewart-Haas Racing. This is year number 4. Kind of like Ryan Blaney. Please, win some races, Aric Almirola. The car is good enough. I think you're almost good enough as a driver. I mean, he does have 2 career wins, both on super speedways. One was rain shortened, but he's led laps. He's running the top 5. I feel like Aric Almirola is just this close to being a consistent winning driver. He's also in a contract year. There's concerns about whether or not Smithfield will be as committed to him after this season. So Almirola's future, much like Bowman's and DiBenedetto's and a few other drivers we'll mention on this list, is a bit in question. He's got to have a fire lit underneath him this year. He's got to be on top of his game, so I think he'll make the playoffs because he's done it each of the last 3 years. I don't see any reason why he won't make the playoffs this year, but I want to see him win races. I don't want to see him pointing his way in with all these top 10s. Like, that's just not sexy. I'm a Matt Kenseth fan, and even I admit that 2003 was not a super sexy championship season. It really wasn't. I understand. So I want to see some wins from Aric Almirola. He has the car to win at least a couple races each season. Get it done. That's all I really ask, but I do think he'll make the playoffs regardless of whether or not he finds victory lane this season. Let's move on to 12th. Christopher Bell, I believe, will make the playoffs this season for the first time in his young career. Of course, this is just his sophomore season, but it's his first year with Joe Gibbs Racing. He moves over to the 20, and I talked about how Kyle Busch lost Adam Stevens as his crew chief. Stevens is landing with Christopher Bell, so Bell's going to have a 2-time Cup Series Championship crew chief to work with. And we can't forget about the last time Christopher Bell was in main JGR equipment. He won 15 combined races over 2 seasons in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And last year with Levi Family Racing, a team that did not have the same resources as JGR, they got off to an abysmal start to the season with a couple DNFs, some just bad luck deals, but they became a bit more consistent by the end of the year. He ended up finishing 20th in points, a nice solid top 20. I have high hopes for Christopher Bell this year. And of course, there's the Bristol Dirt Race also on the schedule, and I think many of us have already circled that date as an obvious win for either Larson or Bell, maybe 1 or 2 other guys, so look for Bell to have some pretty strong runs, I think, early on this season, most notably Bristol Dirt. I think he makes the playoffs. Next up, we're going from one of the youngest to one of the older drivers in the sport, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch, doesn't matter what you throw at him, this dude has been so consistent the last couple seasons, so professional and honestly quite mature. Last year he had an average finish of 13.4. He did nab a win in the playoffs to advance to the round of 8, but in his first 2 years with Chip Ganassi, Kurt Busch has comfortably put that 1 car in the 16-car playoffs. And keep in mind, Kurt Busch has not missed the NASCAR playoffs since 2012, and he's made the playoffs with 3 different teams, Furniture Row, Stewart-Haas, and Chip Ganassi. He's versatile, he's consistent, he's also in a contract year, and as recently as this week, he was kind of mum about whether or not he even wants to come back and race full-time next year. It's going to depend on a lot of different factors, so while that might be a bit of a distraction off the track, I'm convinced Kurt Busch, a veteran, a Cup Series champion way back in 2004, I'm convinced he will be able to perform at the level he's been performing the last few seasons. I think Kurt Busch makes the playoffs. It might not be quite as comfortably as it's been the last couple years, where he's been top 8 in points every year. He might sneak in on the back half of the field a little bit more, but I think Kurt Busch makes the playoffs. That's a fairly easy pick for me. Now things get really hard from about 14th on back. This is Wow. There might be some disagreement on this one, especially when we talk about who I think won't make the playoffs, but I think rookie Chase Briscoe will advance to the playoffs in his first season. This is the guy that won 9 Xfinity Series races last season. He's a good road course racer. I feel like Chase Briscoe is a complete driver. What do I mean by that? He's been in the Ford development system for a number of years now. He will be 26 years old this year. That's pretty old for a Cup Series rookie by recent days standards. But because he's spent so much time in the Ford development system, he's learned to be a great road course racer. We know he's a solid dirt racer. He was great at the intermediate tracks last year. There really isn't a weakness in Chase Briscoe's driving repertoire. Now look, he is a rookie. Last year, Cole Custer, another rookie for SHR, did nab a win to make the playoffs, but he was not consistent the rest of the year. Briscoe's gonna have his work cut out for him this year. I think he could point his way into the playoffs, but as I said in my bold predictions video from a couple weeks ago, I wouldn't be shocked if Briscoe nabs a win or two before the playoffs start. With all those road courses, some of those road courses, he, by running the Xfinity Series last year, has more experience than a lot of Cup Series drivers do, most notably the Indy Road Course, which he won last season. Every year it feels like there's one rookie that steals my heart before the season even starts. This year, I mean, Briscoe really is the only expected to be competitive rookie this season, but this year it's Chase Briscoe. I think he makes the playoffs. That one might lead to some debate in the comments, but let's see who else we got. There's only 2 more spots now left, and that's what I'm saying. There are a lot of competitive drivers and teams that we have not yet talked about. I think William Byron will make the playoffs this year, and this is where I think the new 2021 schedule really comes into play, because William Byron is a pretty decent road course racer. If we look at his last 3 road course finishes, at the Roval last year he was 6th, at the Daytona Road Course he was 8th, and then a year earlier at the Charlotte Roval, because remember we didn't race at Watkins Glen or Sonoma last year, he was also 6th. So that's 3 straight top 10s at road courses. He's not Chase Elliott at the road courses, but he is in a Hendrick car and he is very, very solid. He made the playoffs last year. You know, he went into that final regular season race right on the cut line. He got that win at Daytona, very clutch win to advance to the playoffs where he promptly was eliminated. I need to see more consistency from William Byron. His average finish last year was 16.2. That's not awful, but that's certainly not great. I think he'll sneak into the playoffs this year, but I hope he does it with a win. I hope he's not relying on points, because if he's trying to rely on points late in the summer, he could be in a bad situation. But I think he nabs a win somewhere. He showed a lot extra maturity last year. Part of it was that win at Daytona, I think, gave him a little extra pep in his step. Finally getting a win after almost 3 years in the Cup Series, that helped quite a bit. I expect pretty good things from William Byron this year. He's also a little more comfortable because he does have a contract through 2022 with Hendrick, so he's not desperately looking for a new ride this year. I think that will play to his strength. So Byron makes the playoffs. That means we have, oh gosh, 1 spot left, and there are a lot of drivers I haven't mentioned yet. You know, and it's true, 16 cars and drivers are a lot of teams to put in the NASCAR playoffs. I mean, remember when the chase was 10 cars? I mean, in a lot of ways, I think we should go back to the 10 or 12 car fields for the playoffs, but 16 feels like a lot, but when we really get to it, there are some really good teams and drivers I'm about to leave off this list, so I'm sorry to everyone I'm about to make really angry. I know he made the playoffs last year, but Cole Custer will not make the playoffs this year. I mean, like I said earlier, he was not consistent at all until that win at Kentucky. I mean, that win at Kentucky, a mile and a half, was proof, was a reminder that anything can happen, and it doesn't have to be at a super speedway. He had an average finish of 19.2 last year and really didn't show any signs of getting better as the season went on. I do not think Cole Custer makes the playoffs this year. I'm sorry, RCR fans. I don't think Austin Dillon or Tyler Reddick will make the playoffs either. And it's tough to say that about Austin Dillon specifically, because while we don't think of Austin Dillon as like a perennial contender, looking at the stats, he's actually made the playoffs 4 of the last 5 seasons. Usually he does so by stealing a win somewhere, whether it's the Coke 600 on fuel, whether it's the Daytona 500 after punting Eric Almirola a little bit, whether it's last year at Texas when different fuel strategy worked out. But Dillon did show some good speed in the playoffs last year. Justin Alexander was his crew chief, which was, I think, a very important move. But with some of the new driver team combinations, I'm just not sure Austin Dillon's going to have a place in the 16-car playoff. Tyler Reddick either. He was maybe the most exciting rookie to watch last year. He just missed a playoff spot after that bold move at Daytona didn't quite work out for him, so he was right there on the bubble even going into the last week. That was pretty remarkable for a rookie, especially a rookie in a car that a year earlier was like a 25th place car. So I hope RCR takes a big step forward, but I'm not super convinced. I do think the Chevys in general are a little bit better, but it's just really competitive there from about 14th on back. I don't know if they're going to have space in the top 16. Ross Chastain as well is a difficult driver to predict. I don't know what that 42 car really has under the hood, quite honestly. You know, Larson's made it look pretty good in recent years. Ross Chastain last year in 3 starts with Roush Fenway. Of course, they were sort of off-the-cuff starts. He was filling in for Ryan Newman. His best finish, though, was 17th at Auto Club. He wasn't exceptional in those rides, but I'm not going to hold too much stock in those. Matt Kenseth, meanwhile, last year, had an average finish of 21.2 in the 42 car, so I just don't know how good that car really is. They did change crew chiefs midway through the year last year, so that 42 is not the stable ride we once thought it to be. I don't think Chastain makes the playoffs, but I do think he sneaks into the top 20 in points, and I think that would be a decent season for Chastain. Daniel Suarez with Trackhouse, I think he'll flirt with the top 20 in points. He might run up front here and there, but that's an RCR satellite team, but they are new, so I don't expect them to run quite as well as Dillon or Reddick. Eric Jones with Richard Petty, that's a team that finished 22nd in points last year with Bubba Wallace. I think Eric Jones can get a little more out of that car, perhaps, but I'm not ready to say that's a playoff team. I do think Jones has a great shot at nabbing a win at one of these super speedway races, but unless he does that, no, playoffs are pretty much off the table for Eric Jones in my opinion. So we do have one spot left. I'm giving that final playoff spot to Matt DiBenedetto, and this has almost everything to do with road courses, because with Matt DiBenedetto grabbing my final playoff spot, that means Bubba Wallace, I believe, will be the first driver out.
I took offense to that.
And it all comes down to road courses. Sure, last year Matt DiBenedetto did not impress at neither the Daytona road course or the Charlotte Roval. His best finish was 15th. That was a bit surprising, but the year earlier, 2019 with Levine Family Racing, his road course numbers were phenomenal. 4th at Sonoma, 6th at Watkins Glen, and 11th at the Charlotte Roval in Levine Family Racing equipment. That's pretty impressive. Yes, DiBenedetto kind of limped into the playoffs last season and didn't make any noise once he got there, but this is his second year now with the Wood Brothers. It's a Team Penske satellite car. 2 of the Penske cars made the championship for last year, so we know that team and presumably its satellite teams have some speed. DiBenedetto was pretty consistent last year. He had an average finish of 14.8. That's not too bad. He only had 1 DNF on the year. That's not bad either. He was consistent, especially early on and in the middle portions of the season. I think he and the Wood Brothers can build on that here in their second year together. Yes, there is the lame duck aspect that DiBenedetto's going to be looking for a new ride, before the season even begins. He already knows he won't be in that car in 2022, but Matt DiBenedetto has been living on that edge for years now. It feels like year to year, he never knows exactly where he may or may not be racing. If anyone's used to that pressure to perform in dire circumstances, it's Matt DiBenedetto, so I don't think that's going to affect his performance too much this year. I think if anything, that'll bring out the best in Matt DiBenedetto now that the stakes are the highest, so I think Matt DiBenedetto will grab that 16th playoff spot, and again, it almost entirely comes down to the road courses, because Matt DiBenedetto's great at road courses. Bubba Wallace absolutely sucks at road courses. Unfortunately, I get that Bubba Wallace is likely going to be in the most competitive car he's ever been in. 2311 Racing, the all-new Toyota-backed JGR sort of satellite team. The car is likely going to be competitive. That's a car that at some point this year will get to a point where it can contend for wins. And I think, honestly, a win might be what it takes for Bubba Wallace to make the playoffs this year, because I have a feeling with, again, 6 road course races during the regular season, he may find himself in a bit of a points hole. I looked up his numbers. In 8 total career Cup Series road course starts, Bubba Wallace does not have a top 20. I know he's been driving Richard Petty equipment. That's not great equipment or anything, but I think his best finish is 25th? Yeah, his average finish is 25th or worse at all of the road courses on the NASCAR schedule, so that does not bode well for Bubba Wallace this year. I think he's going to need to win a race if he wants to make the playoffs. I think that's certainly possible working with Mike Wheeler. I mean, Bubba Wallace himself set a personal goal a couple weeks back to win 2 races this year. That's certainly feasible, but I think he's going to need to get a win, and we saw last year, I mean, it's hard to win a race in the NASCAR Cup Series. Look at some of the big names that went winless last year. Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, Matt DiBenedetto, Eric Jones, Matt Kenseth, all good drivers and at least decent equipment that could not find victory lane last year, so it's not easy to win in the NASCAR Cup Series. Bubba Wallace is coming off his best statistical season by far, an average finish of 21.1 last year for Richard Petty. He set a career high with 5 top 10, so momentum is on his side. I think Bubba Wallace is a good driver, but first year with a new team. We are talking about a driver who has never made the playoffs, who's never won a NASCAR Cup Series race. You want to talk about pressure. That team's going to be feeling a lot of pressure this year. All of the eyes of NASCAR Nation will be on the Michael Jordan-owned 2311 Racing team. He's going to be under a lot. He's going to face a lot of scrutiny. There are a lot of fans out there that are Bubba Wallace naysayers. He'll hear the haters, and Bubba Wallace has demonstrated in the past that he does hear the haters loud and clear. I don't want to say that's going to get under his skin or get into his head too much, but he's demonstrated that it has in the past, so I'm sorry, I'm not confident Bubba Wallace will make the playoffs in his first year with 2311 Racing. He'll be right there. He'll be in contention pretty much all year long. I think it's going to take a win, and wins are hard to come by in the Cup Series these days. So there you have my 16 drivers I think will make the playoffs this year. Let me know. You've probably already left a comment, but let me know down below what you think of my list. Are there any drivers you would swap out? What do you think Bubba Wallace does this year? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, really quick, before I wrap this episode up, I want to give you guys my Championship 4 picks. I believe Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski and Alex Bowman will advance to the Championship 4 finale at Phoenix. I'm picking Chase Elliott to go back-to-back. I think he wins 2 in a row. Hey, more road courses in the regular season likely means more playoff points for Chase Elliott, so he's only going to have an easier path to the Championship 4 in my opinion, and he showed great speed at the end of last year. I think he wins back-to-back. Kevin Harvick, I think he'll get some redemption after missing the Championship 4 in 2020. I think he'll make it this year. Brad Keselowski's in a contract year. He's a consistent, professional, veteran driver. He won 4 races a year ago. I think Brad Keselowski finds a way to make it to Phoenix and hopefully lands a big contract for 2022 and beyond. And then Alex Bowman. I'm feeling good about Alex Bowman this year. I know he's under a lot of pressure, but I think he'll live up to it. Chevy seemed to have gained speed, and keep in mind, last year, Alex Bowman had 4 top 10s in the 5 races leading up to the Phoenix finale. So he ended last year strong. If he just had a few more playoff points, might have been able to advance to the Championship 4 just this past season. Those are my Championship 4 picks. I think Chase Elliott goes back-to-back. I think we're in the era of Chase Elliott officially, and he's going to prove it to us all here this season. But let me know what you think of all my picks here today. My way too early playoff predictions. I mean, so many new teams that we have no idea where they're going to be jumping off from, how they're going to start out. Total shot in the dark, quite honestly, but that's why we have fun here on this show. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR news, rumors, sometimes predictions every single day. The season is upon us, so don't miss a single episode. Thank you as always to my amazing Patreon supporters as well. Have a great Super Bowl Sunday, everyone. I will be back this week with plenty of content. We'll have race reactions to the dual races, to the Busch Clash, and a whole lot more in between. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for the support. I'll see you again very, very soon.